Hello, my name is Lamerck, and welcome to the Naval Sports League. For our first-time watchers, the Naval Sports League, or NSL, is the ultimate naval competition in the game of holdfast nations at war. League battles are simple. Two teams, each led by a single admiral, pilot 5 large capital ships and 2 small support boats with the goal of sinking as many capital ships as they can within 35 minutes. Whoever sinks the most wins, and if there's a tie, we decide the winner by overall score. Teams consist of anywhere between 20 to 40 players, and the league provides mercenaries to balance out any number disparities between the teams. Every player in the league, be they a team player or a mercenary, is competing hard for end of season awards and accolades. Every battle will take place on a randomly chosen map with randomly chosen wind direction. Both of these factors mean that no two battles will ever be the same. The league lasts for 9 months, from late February to November, with 3 to 4 games a month for you to enjoy. Once that main season is over, the top 3 teams of the league will duke it out to determine who wins the champion's crown. The NSL is a collection of Holdfast's most talented admirals, officers, and crews, and the tactical gameplay you will see here is at a higher level than anything else this game has to offer. We hosts and co-hosts will be here for the entire battle to help you understand the decisions and strategies that you will see play out today in the NSL Coliseum. So, without further ado, let's get to the pregame coverage. I am joined today by my good friend Amit. How are you doing today, Amit?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me again.
Of course, it is always a pleasure. We want to get right to the substance here today. Let's go through some of our slides here in the beginning, take a picture look at where the league is now, and get to today's very exciting match. So let's start with league standings. As you can see on the league standings, we have Leviathans in first place with a 2-0 record. The Krakens have rocketed back up to second place with a 2-1 after an incredible recent win. The SCP-38 still holding strong on that top half of the tier with a 2-1 record. And then we have the bottom half of the league as it stands now. The Marines with a surprising 1-1. The Jackals with a 1-2 after their surprising victory as well most recently. And the Royal Black Fleet still 0-3 after a tough loss in our most recent matchup. This week, however, we have the Marines versus the Leviathans, and let's before we get into that matchup, start talking about the player leaderboard. Amit, will you take us through the player leaderboard this week?
Yeah, sure. So right now it's just a complete and utter takeover by the Krakens here. They have 4 out of the top 5 slots here. So Verita right at the top, he's still going up and up and up with an KD ratio of 5.6, the
That's
highest
insane.
we've seen. It's crazy. Now, holding strong, Spicy Paper still in second place, but over the past few weeks or the past few matches, he's slowly dropping. In my conversations with him, he's very concerned about that. So watch out for him today. I know he's murking and looking to take his way upward again. McCandles, Scorrigan, and Cameron all also Krakens players in third, fourth, and fifth places respectively. Uh, Pretty good showings from them so far. Um, let's see if anybody in the Leviathans or the Marines can take any of these top spots today.
Yeah, it's open. It's open to anybody who can get a good score, good KD. So let's switch over to the side by side. Let's take a look at today's matchup. We have, again, I can't describe how excited I am for this match. The details really matter here. The Marines versus the Leviathans. Now, hearing my voice, it may surprise you if you haven't listened to some things like the Wardroom or other broadcasts recently. I will not be commanding the Leviathans today. Instead, I'm here with you as a host. Our Admiral today on both sides actually is not a first-time Admiral on both sides because Chewie on the Marines has Admiral before, but the first time that we're seeing them in season 1 this go around. We have Safe, who this is his first time as Admiral in the NSL competitive scene. He is an Admiral of X. He is somebody that you may have heard tons of accolades go towards for his, I would say, peerless gunboating skills. He has been, I can attest personally as the man who's been commanding him in the past few battles. He is a hero in X. What he can do with gunboats is, I believe, beyond the second and third best gunboating crews by a mile. And today he's going to take that ability and he's going to bring it to the big stage as the Admiral. We have, on the other hand, Chewie. Chewie is an admiral who has actually a lot of experience in the NSL in the preseason specifically. He was the author of some of the most lopsided victories, but also some major defeats. And so while his record may not be what I would say is perfect. It may have, again, like I said, some defeats along with the victories. In my opinion, he is one of the finest admirals in the NSL. He has an extraordinary tactical mind, and he understands the fundamentals of admiraling. I think better than most. And so to have somebody of his caliber fighting a brand new admiral in Safe, though Safe has lots of experience in the NSL, this is his first time admiraling. So Amit, like it is, this is gonna be a good battle. These are two guys who know what they're doing. And so let's just go down the stats really quick before we start talking about this. The season record, the Marines are 1-1. We talked about the Leviathans being 2-0. The all-time matchup, we have 0-0 for these two teams. Now it is not that Chewy has never fought the Leviathans. It is not that the Leviathans as a team have never fought the components that make up the Marines, but the Marines are a new team this season. They're built from parts of the Seawolves from last season. They're built from parts of the first RM from last season. So it is a hybrid and a new thing, and that's why we're calling it kind of a fresh start here. And we see
Yeah.
our guys to watch, top players, and of course our one to watch is S Bjornson on the Marines and Shadow on the Leviathans. I've talked a lot. Amit, what do you think of this matchup?
I mean, I think this is gonna be an interesting one, and I've been waiting and waiting and waiting to see Chewie become the admiral for one of these matches. I was rather disappointed when I heard the news that the Seawolves, of which Chewie had a big part in, as you said, had disbanded between the 2 seasons, or the preseason and the first season. So
Mm.
I'm very much looking forward to, especially because the last showing from the first, sorry, the Marines, we had Nazgul, who valiantly stepped in there and tried to fill those shoes, but we all saw what happened when they faced off against the SCP-38. So I'm really glad to see someone who we know really understands what they're doing and how the flow of the battle goes. I really want to see what he's doing. And as you said, Safe on the Leviathan side, new to admiraling, but if you're confident in him, you know him better than I would. Uh, I'm looking to see hopefully something interesting, maybe new. I don't know. We'll see. Leviathan's last match was a little bit more defensive, especially given the wind, was in your face the whole time. So really excited to see what happens here. I think we're gonna have a great match between these
Yeah.
two admirals specifically.
Absolutely. All right, let's move on to the map preview and we can really get into the nuts and bolts of what we're going to be seeing today. So, as you can see on the map, we are at half islands here, right? We have on the right side is going to be all open ocean. On the left side is infamous island chain that I'm sure Amit will take us all through and give us his well worn wisdom and how it works against and for teams. But let's talk about the wind first. Southeast wind is going to favor the Leviathans. The Marines neutral wind option, right? So if they were to go to the right from their spawn, they'd be going dead against the wind. I do not in any way anticipate Chewie doing that unless he goes really hard against the wind, because he has had troubles going against the wind against the Leviathans before. One of his great
Hmm.
defeats was when he started his team going against the wind and got caught basically in his spawn zone in a big fight. It didn't end up well for him in the end. I predict that we're probably going to see the Marines going into those islands, but they've also suffered defeats in those
Yep.
islands before.
Although
Chewie
that was a
also has that
different
experience.
admiral, at the time it was a
That
different
wasn't
admiral. I
Chewie,
think.
right? That wasn't Chewie. That was Sabo
No,
from the Seawolves
he was
back then.
present for it though.
But he was present for it. I have a feeling there's psychic wounds there that are nonetheless present in him. Whereas Safe and the Leviathans are going to have good wind. They're going to get their choice of where to open and start off with. But we've seen recently in the league that admirals are beginning to understand the dynamics of being against the wind and how they must utilize defensive posture. We did it as the Leviathans. We saw the SCP guys do it. We saw the Jackals do it. Right,
Jackals do it
people.
against us. Yeah.
Right, we saw people starting to get the idea that you just don't rush forward. Sometimes you do have to sit back. Sometimes you do have to play the defensive, or maybe you go forward a little bit, but then you set up somewhere, right? So maybe we're going to see that from the Marines and Chewie. He is a student of these battles. But what I do know about Chewie is also he loves a fight. He is aggressive. So this is what do you think is going to happen, Amit? Like, where do you see these guys going?
I mean, that's a great question. Typically, in the past, my for majority of the past current season and the previous one was that the Leviathans tend to be the more aggressive party, especially when they're given the advantage of using the wind right off the bat, which you guys, well, the Leviathans certainly have that today.
Yeah.
However, given their recent 2 matches, I am curious to see whether that still holds up or if they do something more interesting coming out the gate with the islands. I agree with you with the Marines. I don't see Chewie taking his fleet out against the wind initially. I mean, it is a bit tough for him given the direction. But I mean, if I were him, same thing. Set up defensively, utilize the islands. That's what we did in our match against the Marines previously when they had the advantage against us. Granted, it was a completely different map, but our Admiral Muffintop had a very clear idea of choke points and utilizing and baiting maneuvers. Um, I feel like Chewie might try something interesting here regarding those choke points in the pill shape islands, as long as he has learned his lesson from or lessons from previous mistakes from both his own team and previous teams. Um, I think they have a solid chance here, especially with the crews that they have. Solid guys in the first RM, solid guys in the 77th as well. So
Absolutely. I mean, the teams, when it comes to the teams and their cannoneering, um, I'm not prepared to give it an edge to anybody. I'm obviously a little
neither am I.
biased
Yeah,
towards the Leviathans. They're my team. I do know them. They are incredible cannoneers, and I think the Leviathans do have some advantage here in a level of cohesion. Um, our ability to delegate individual commands and have captains obey without a question, I can report to you, is basically ironclad. I think that will continue for safe. Whereas, of course, the Marines are a composite group, right? Chewie is in charge, but we've seen from regiments before that a rogue captain could think he's got a great idea and break off and do so. So, we could see something like that, but I think Chewie is going to be a pretty firm hand with his crew. I
I
think
think
he
so.
I think he may see this as an opportunity to get a win over the Leviathans, which up until now, no one has beaten the Leviathans on the ocean. They have lost from an administrative perspective, from a disqualification perspective, to the Royal Black Fleet, but defeated out in the ocean, that has not happened. And I think, honest to God, if there is anybody I could see doing it, Chewie is the guy. And the question is, can he master his forces? Can he pick a window, an opening that does not leave him weak, and can he utilize islands in the right way? Now, I want to talk when we talk about this map. Still, I want to direct the audience's attention onto those two on the left side, those two diagonal pill-shaped islands. Right, those are fleet destroying islands. They have
Hmm.
caused more defeats than any other island in any other map in the NSL. Getting caught having to follow the trajectory of one of those islands because you can't turn and hit the island, right? It has caused some serious losses in this league. And so that's what Chewie's got to watch out for, because he's going to have the slower start. I think what you're going to see from Safe is he's going to just kind of go forward in a neutral way. He's going to judge and react based off of what the Marines do with their opening. I think you're going to see reactionary. That's kind of how we do it in Leviathans. We let the opponent show their hand, and then we see what we can do about it. All right, so we are just getting into the map now. Um, so let's get some perspectives for you guys. Um, any other major predictions that you have for today, Amit? Any last thoughts before we start getting this battle underway? I mean, let's put our cards on the table. Who do you think is going to win today? We haven't done
Uh,
this in a while, but you and I like
I
to.
mean,
I like to do it at least.
I tend to give the edge to the Leviathans, not because I don't think any team can bring them close. We've seen the RBF do this twice to you guys, and I think it just comes down to individual skill at that point. I'm going to say Leviathans.
Okay. I am contractually obligated to also say Leviathans, but I really do think that Chewie has a really good shot. Like, I have nothing but confidence in Safe, but there is no denying the fact that this is his first time ever admiraling in the NSL. There is an experience gap that he is going to have to overcome today. Now, he has every other thing going for him. He's got guys like Atticus on his flagship, who is also an experienced not just captain, but admiral in the NSL, who will be giving him advice and will be his eyes on the ground. Something I could tell you about Safe today is he is not going to be piloting a ship. He is actually
Oh,
going to
okay.
be right. Admirals have the option in this league is they can kind of play it like an RTS strategy game where they're kind of the bird's eye view looking down instead of being on a ship. I like to play it on a ship. I know I think Amit, you probably would like to play it on a ship if you were like an admiral. I know some of the other guys, they like to be on the ground. Amit wants to be more up in the sky, watching things and sort of macro managing and leaving maybe some of the on the ground decisions to his captains, instead saying something like, listen, Atticus, I need you to defend this territory. I need you to press this advantage, and then leaving it to the experienced captains of X to do it. Which, if there's any group of people who can put a plan together and be left to have autonomous action, it is the captains of X. I can tell you that from my own personal, knowing them. They are
So,
great.
so it is Atticus's choice to lead from the ground as well. Is that correct? He's usually not in the
Yes,
overhead.
Atticus will
So that
lead
is a bit
from
of
the
a
flagship.
difference of style here. So yeah, I mean, absolutely, it does give you certain advantages. Um, the reason I know some other captains don't do that, or admirals don't do that, is because they prefer to have more granular control over their ships and the directions and stuff like that, which I absolutely understand. But I think there's a balance to be had there.
Yeah.
And personally speaking, if I was an admiral, I probably wouldn't be driving a ship, except maybe to make sure the original formation is held. Speaking of which, we are live.
Yeah, we are live. So what we're seeing right off the bat is I'm getting inclinations on my left side here, which is the British team. That is the Marines. They do look like they're going into the islands. That is, I think, the right choice for them. Yeah, and I will.
Oh, it looks interesting here. We've got the Leviathans moving due south towards the Marines, all of their ships. Now, I imagine they'll probably pull into the islands at some point, especially given that we can see that the Marines are now moving in that direction, which is, in my opinion, the smart decision. But
I think luring the Leviathans into a bad island position is basically the best thing that they can do, because they're going to get into the islands, and the Leviathans are going straight, right? So that means the Leviathans are going to be the second group to get into this island formation, right? Maybe they're probably going to turn in at this first juncture that you see here between these two linear pill-shaped islands, and
mhm.
so that's going to lead these guys headed south, and it. At that point, the question is, with the good wind that they're going to have, are the Leviathans going to be able to just basically start, getting position and punching really early? But again, I like the opening from the Marines. This is the right choice for them. The question is, what do they do with these islands? They're going to have them. What do they do with them?
Yeah, I mean, like this is very. I've played on this map 3 times before in preseason alone. This what we're seeing the Leviathans do right here, turn in as you predicted, is exactly what we saw when we fought the Seawolves, Chewie's previous team. They are actually following the same path. Now, the difference here is that I believe the wind is not as good for the Leviathans, although they still do have it in some respect if they're going, perpendicular to the southwest. And I think they'll probably
I
be
mean,
chopping the front sails
wind
here.
is southeast. They have full right. Their trajectory right now is full wind, right? They've got full wind at this moment, but that is bringing them directly at the Sea Wolves. I'm sorry, the Marines.
Oh, I
And what?
apologize. I had my directions mixed up there for a moment. I was
Yeah,
thinking northeast to
we've
southeast.
got we've
Apologies.
got
Yeah.
southeast, so this is great for them.
Yeah.
And so what? But the thing is that when are they going to turn their fleet in? Right. So are they going to turn? Are they going to turn northeast to try and cut behind a Seawolf line? Are they going to turn southwest to match and parallel the Seawolf line? Right. What we need to see from Safe is something inventive here, because he doesn't want to get caught in just a shootout. It's fine to do that, especially if you're confident in your gunnery. But the island situation for Safe is actually not as good right now as this little marker here, and kind of explain why I feel that way. And the reason for that is I think these guys are going to get to around this area, and then they have lots of options of where to go. Right? They can go through here. They can go around here. I would say that for the Leviathans, they can't go this way because of this island. So really, it's
Right.
somewhere in this cone here, just going to the south. I I think it's going to end up being something more along the lines of a line battle to the wall. And that, while not particularly exciting, is going to give both of these teams a sort of even chance to get what they want out of it. And then it's going to be up to their Cannoneers. It's going to be up to the Cannoneers. I'm not
Yeah,
seeing the Leviathans pushing in any sort of way that is going to really hurt the Seawolves because of their adherence. Though, okay, take a look at this, Amit. The Seawolves' 2 rear 8 guns are intentionally slowed down.
yeah. They may want to cut in behind the Leviathans formation here, given that the Leviathans are just still in a static formation here.
Yeah. They want to get a line, but those 2 ships need to start moving like now if they
Yeah,
want to start doing that. They cannot wait because the Leviathans will get all of their ships firing on that the Marines flagships. I think the
yeah.
Marines have to really, really, really. Okay, the
I am
Marines are
getting a
going to
little
keep a healthy
concerned here from
distance.
Marines. Yeah, I mean, given that they had initially tried to offset their flagship there, but as you can see, it's ramming the rear of their first 8 gun, really urging it to get the hell out of there. Now, what they're doing with those 2 rear 8 guns
I
on the
think they're going to flee.
Marines?
I think they're going to flee into the channel. They haven't taken a lot of damage. Like, we're not at a point
No, no,
where
of
this
course
has
not. Yeah.
been some catastrophe move for the Marines. I think the question is, what are those 2 8 guns down there going to do? I mean, this is a plan. This is a ploy. This is a stratagem. And I think Chewie is thinking the Leviathans want me. They can come get me. Okay, so here's what I'm seeing. This is my guess. Let me try and make a guess here. And it would be this. These guys are going to run down here, right? They're going to run through this channel. They're going to try and draw the Leviathans in. Then they're going to
Yeah.
send those 2 ships around the pill-shaped island and try and hit them from the back. So what they end up having is they have the ships that are going through blockading down here. They lure the Leviathans in, and then they swing around behind, and then they get crossfire all through this area. That's what I think we may be seeing from Chewie here. And he's given up very little ship HP to make it happen. So let's see how it goes. I like this. I like this. This is strategy. You know, these are real tactics that we're seeing here. The question is, what are the Leviathans going to do about it? Can they see through it? And if they can see through it, are they going to go for the 2 8 guns? Now, the nice thing that Chewie has done here for himself is he's regrouping. So whichever group that the Leviathans decide to pick on, it's not like the Marines are so far apart from one another that they can't support the target. The only thing is, the Marines 13 gun is taking a little bit of damage here. It's not the greatest start in the whole world.
I can barely see the HP damage on it, so
It's
I'm not
very
worried
minor.
for the Marines right now.
It's very minor.
You took
But they are
every
taking
single
hits.
word I had in my mouth. Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. The flagship of the Leviathan certainly is still in range in some of those rear 8 guns. Now it seems like they're a little bit out of range. Yeah, I thought initially it was a trap as well. I didn't think that the Leviathans would would fall for it. Certainly they have not. But now we're seeing a situation where they're kind of just back together in 2 sets of fleet formations. However, we can see that those 8 guns from the Marines are actually not turned in the same direction. So I don't know if that's
That's
going to be
right.
a problem. But if they just stay there, I think they're going to just start hammering those people. Those Leviathan ships coming through. My concern is that now the Marines are in a situation where if they're going to hold those 8 guns there instead of moving them backwards, there's going to be very little room for the Marines' other ships that are moving towards the north right now to get in there and form up. And we could see that the 13-gun flagship on the Marine side is, I mean, it's positioned. I think it's okay.
Yeah,
But
he's
those
using
8 guns at the
island
rear,
cover.
yeah,
He's using island cover to put a lot of. They're going to put some damage on that
they're
lead
going to put
8 gun. And actually, they're going for the 13
the
gun, which I
flagship, yeah,
have to admire. They
yeah.
are going for that 13 gun, and they have to, right? And already they, by doing so, they've evened out what I mean. It's probably very hard to see for the viewer, but both of the flagships now are basically equal in HP, which is to say they've just taken a little bit off the top. This is not going too poorly. What what Chewie has done really well and what the Marines have done really well is they kind of have taken the wind from the Leviathans. The Leviathans, I don't think, have particularly good wind right now. They're going at neutral
No.
wind at best. So any idea of the Leviathans using an early wind advantage to set up positioning, that is not happening. And that's really good for the Marines. Now, this whole fleet formation here, where two of these ships are going in one direction, three of these ships are going in the other, that's not good for the Marines. But right now, they're trading. They're trading damage. The flagships are both, again, still at parity with HP. Maybe the Marines are taking a little bit more damage, but not by much. They've really got to focus fire, though, on the Leviathan's flagship. The Leviathans are doing a great job keeping it off center or set back from the rest of the fleet, and that is the way to go. Whereas all ships have range on the Marines flagship, and you are now seeing, Amit, the differences in HP between those flagships start to
I
emerge.
just wanted to point out, if I were whoever's running that flagship from the 13
Go
gun on the Marine
backwards.
side, I would go backwards. Yeah, get behind that island because we're watching it drop really rapidly. That's not to say that there isn't far output against the Leviathan's flagship or their own ships, but you can see that they're starting to move again, and it's going to be a little bit more difficult for the Marines to start focusing themselves again because those two 8 guns were offset already, and now they're back into formation though. So we may see
Yeah,
this.
so
Yeah,
those Akons are trying to cut off the front of the Leviathan fleet, but the sacrifice of the 13 guns HP is not worth what they're getting out of it. So they've got a line, but it's not a good line. Now, this is the part where the Leviathans really do kind of need to just stop. They had a great thing going with the flagship. I mean, they still do, and they're still hitting it hard with their rear three ships. But this is the time to slow down and really savor the fact that your entire fleet is just sending shots into the. Yeah, I mean,
oh man, it's
this
not
is
looking
not
good
good
here.
for the Marines. They're going to lose their flagship any second now, and they have not done anywhere near enough to offset that loss. And there it goes. And there it goes.
Yeah, with
Leviathans are going to be feeling real good now. This is where the things are going to start to get very aggressive.
yeah, I mean, why not? Like, you have the ability to now swing east and get a little bit of that wind if you're the Leviathans cut in front of these guys, perhaps. Maybe that's
Yep.
not a good idea because you can see there is one sail active from these two 8 guns on the the Marines, but I don't think that even is necessary. Perhaps Safe will take his ships through that gap and then just swing to the east. And although that does give the Marines some time, but what I like about the Leviathan's formation here is that it's very spread out. Like it's spread out in the sense that there's spacing. So if they want to hit all of these ships here, like the two leading 8 guns, they probably could, and then still put fire onto the rear 8 guns left behind from the Marines. So you actually see that first 8 gun moving through the gap here now, and it remains to be seen what's going to happen. I really think they're going to swing east and just come downwards and try to cut off the
Yeah, I mean,
remaining
southeast is the
first
wind,
Marine.
so the Leviathans have the
Yeah.
wind as soon as they pass these two islands. And the thing for the Marines is that both of their they have two groups of remaining 8 guns going in opposite directions.
Yeah,
So they
that's
basically got to pull back. They've got to pull like southeast themselves, get out of range, regroup. They have not lost a tremendous amount of HP on their 8 guns. It is not
no.
out of the question that they could turn this around, but it's got to be a big, very smart play from them. And I don't see it happening right now.
Well, they
We
are turning now, but it's
two of the ships
two of the
are, and that
ships.
is
Yeah,
good. And maybe that is to rotate around the island and reconnect with those other two 8 guns. They've got to do that. It's all they've got.
they
But
have to. Yeah.
in the meantime, they're taking a beating. They're taking a beating, and they're not really giving it back. They're not really giving it back.
Oh no, the second Leviathan or Marine 8 gun has stopped. Okay, they got their sails there. Okay, I was concerned they were just gonna leave it behind for dead.
Yeah, they've got to turn that ship.
They
They've
need
got
to
to use
turn
that
it though.
island. I mean, maybe they're going to use the island cover. I could see a turn happening right now. But if that ship keeps going forward, that is very, very, very bad. The
See,
Leviathans are
sorry, continue, continue.
the Leviathans are keeping these three 8 guns back. They're still tussling with the Marine ships that have been consistently parked. The Leviathans are not focusing too much on anything. Um, It's more of just general fire at whoever's kind of across from you. Um, I am not liking how long this isolated Marine 8 gun has taken to turn around. It is going to take some
Yeah.
serious damage from that 13 gun, and it kind of deserves it because it's been very sluggish about getting around that island, and that's a shame because they do not have HP to spare right now. They simply do not. Now we're seeing the Leviathan fleet split up. This is a big deal. This is where the Marines have a chance. You see those rear 3 8 guns in the Leviathan line, they are going to engage the 3 8 guns of the Marine line. And in doing so, they are going to put themselves at a significant dangerous position. The Long Island is not going to let them turn into rotation very quickly. Uh, this could be an opportunity for Marines to really hit some of these 8 guns. And the 8 guns that we're talking about are, of course, these 3 8 guns right here that you can see on the overmap. This fire coming
Mm.
in, and these guys don't have the wide range of fire that they want to respond. These guys could take a real beating. I would not, I'm not sure that I would have done this. And it does scare me a little bit because this is the way that the Marines claw their way back here. Can they? I don't know. Is this the only way it could happen? Absolutely.
We
So
got
let's see
a
how it goes.
we have a gunboat from the Marines coming in alongside of that lead 8 gun. In that pack of 3 from the Leviathans. I don't know what they're planning to do here. Maybe head it
Gonna be
off and
aborting.
then board it. That's my belief here. Just get
Yeah.
your gunboat stuck on the front and it gets carried and you just keep respawning and jumping on. It's a legitimate tactic. We've seen it used before, and it may cause a little bit of a disruption.
Now, I want to draw an arrow of the wind here for everyone. The wind is going southeast. It is going this way. That means that this group here is in a perfect opportunity to swing behind the Marines here. And the Marines, bunched up like they are over here, they're going to get cut off from behind. This is very,
Yeah,
very, very bad for the Marines.
I was gonna say earlier when those 3, well, just when the Leviathans formation started to move north again, I was thinking that once those 2 opposite ended or north facing 8 guns from the Marines turned around and regrouped, they would move west. Yes, it would be against the wind, but at least you'd be in formation in a way to parallel the enemy coming in at you. And we just did not see that happen here.
This group down here, they needed to be in a position where they could fire this way, and they needed to do it like a minute ago. This is going to be beatdown, an absolute beatdown for them with every ship behind them. I don't know what they were thinking here, and I don't know, like, what I do know what they were thinking here. What they were thinking is there were some ships coming up this way, and they wanted to fire into them, but you can't fire into these guys so long that the entire rest of the fleet gets to cut behind you with full wind. That is a huge error on their part, and it is going to cost them a tremendous amount of ship HP. Um, this is looking like a pretty brutal situation being set up here, and unfortunately, the Leviathans are taking no punishment for their brazenness here, and instead they are just getting everything that they could possibly want out of this. I am seeing a big win for our new admiral here, safe in the near future, and it's just a matter of whittling down these 8 guns, which they are doing with no real opposition. These 8 guns are just scrambling. You
Yeah,
know,
I mean, if you
that's
take a look at the HP for a second, you can see on the Leviathan side, the green ships here, they've taken negligible damage on any of their 8 guns, and that flagship, the 13 gun, is safely tucked away at the rear of the Leviathan's formation with impunity. They are just firing on the rear of these ships, and I'm very concerned right now. The game is not over, but
the thing for the
it's tough
Marines is
to
that
see the
there's no
outcome.
reason that that flagship should survive the round. Maybe you lose. Maybe you lose. But these 8 guns are not facing the enemy fleet. They are facing a single isolated 8 gun off their starboard. That is not a key to victory here. When you lose your 13 gun, your number one priority is to sink the enemy 13 gun because that's the only way you drop the enemy's ability to return fire with as many cannons down
Hmm.
to a level that is similar to yours. Then, maybe with good positioning, maybe with excellent cannoneering, then you turn things around. The Marines are just. It almost looks like they've kind of given up on fighting the main Leviathan fleet, and they're just gonna try and sink a single ship. And I don't think they're even going to do it.
Well, what I think they're doing here, and trying to do, I should say, is they're trying to salvage it, like cut and run, cut their losses, and I think they've kind of given up on that rear eight gun. They've kind of left it for dead there. Um, I think. Oh, we just saw
That's it.
one of the main formation eight guns go down. So we're looking at two eight guns from the Marines go down very quickly here. Uh, yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right. They're just going to try to sink that ship there, the lone
So the one
Leviathan
that just
station.
sunk was the one that was across from the main Leviathan fleet. It's those that group of two over
Yeah.
there. Those are our remainders here, and that's all well and good, except those ships are beat the heck up. And yeah, so this is going to be a victory of basically historic proportions for the Leviathans, because it is one in which they will have lost absolutely nothing. I mean, nothing. No ships, no gunboats.
Yeah, that's a great point to bring up. Is that we talk about how the Leviathans have never lost on the seas before, which is absolutely true. That doesn't mean they haven't lost ships, and we typically do see them lose quite a few ships sometimes. And absolutely, I think that
And
was very well said.
and as generous as I want to be to our victorious admiral, who did a great job today here, and I'm saying victorious ahead of time, but I think it's a pretty done deal at this point.
I think it's a done deal as well.
As generous as I want to be to Safe's incredible work here today, and the crew's incredible work, and the captains, um, the reason that the Leviathans are going to leave this battle without losing a single ship is because the Marines simply did not decide to shoot at them. It was I am baffled at the decision for all four of the remaining, or three of the four remaining Marines eight guns to basically just spend the latter half of this game fleeing
So I
from
have
the
a
majority of
theory.
the Leviathan's fleet.
I have a theory about this. It may not be the correct one, but when we saw those two eight guns from the Marines having to turn around that pill shape, or sorry, just the regular island to the southeast to try to link up with their friendly ships facing towards the south, what I noticed was that the captain on the second eight gun that was trying to turn was getting shot off several times. I saw that Carpenter
Mm,
had to drive the ship at some point, so maybe they were
mhm.
waiting for that ship to come into formation. But at that point, it was already too late. The Leviathans already had a very good, or were about to have a very good angle, and they should have recognized that and made the adjustment they needed. Now, like I said, I could be wrong about that, but I mean, I don't have any logical explanation for why they wouldn't have turned. I mean, we saw the similar situation when the Leviathans faced off against the Krakens in their first match of the season, and we saw ships just kind of layered up against each other, not able to fire back effectively at the enemy. So. Uh, yeah, I think they should have cut the loss early if that's what they were thinking.
I agree. I
We'll
agree.
have to find out in
There's
the interview.
no shame in repositioning and running, but to do it so late in the battle, and to do it so close to the enemy, where they're going to just have so much time to shoot into your back, lose two ships for it, and gain nothing. I mean, nothing. This score differential is going to be, I think, huge at the end of this. I
Speaking of
mean,
which, let's take a look at the score for right now.
yeah.
Ooh,
What do you
I
got
guess we
so
didn't
far?
need to. I brought it up on my screen, and I gotta let it go now.
It's bad.
It's one of the worst I've seen, I think.
I want to allow
I feel bad
people to
saying
keep
that. I
looking at
shouldn't
the
have said that.
overhead, but well, no, listen, it is what it is, right? We have to call balls and strikes here. These guys are getting creamed, and they're getting creamed because they're not. I mean, now look at this, see this situation here where the Leviathans are dragging themselves against the wind to try and catch up. This would have been a cool situation to have when you had four ships left.
Yeah,
In this
and that's why
situation,
I thought the Marines should have gone north from their position, swing west, and then go north even against the wind, and then exactly do this.
Yeah. You know what the crazy thing is right now, the Leviathans are desperately just trying to make sure that they don't lose that 8 gun that's kind of overextended out in front of it. They're trying to get those gunboats. They're focusing more on how good this victory is going to be than they are even focused on finishing up because they have 10 minutes left and the remaining two ships are absolutely powerless to resist the Leviathan offensive at this point. So the Marines are going to want to sink that 8 gun, and they might actually, yeah, they did. They sunk an 8 gun. So
There it
good
goes.
on the Marines. They did not get completely blown out, but I mean, just barely. They did not get completely blown out. And we are
Yeah.
going to see very soon the end of these Marines 8 guns. They've got all the ships turning on them now. One of them is about to sink any second. The other one is going to take a little bit longer, but there is no question about who the victory is going to go to. It is going to go to the Leviathans. It is going to go to the Leviathans in a very, very big way. Um, this is not how I thought this battle was going to go. I really liked what Chewie was showing us in the beginning, the stratagem that he was trying to do. But I think the problem is you can't start with the stratagem, then not have a follow-up stratagem. There goes another
Yeah.
Marine ship.
Yeah, there it is. Something I failed to mention earlier, and I wanted to mention, but there was so much action going on already. Was those two gunboats from the Leviathans basically just sat in the same position until they finally smelled blood in the water and they've come to harass the rear. But they were just mosquitoes, just like bzz, bzz, the whole
Yep.
time against the Marines. And oh my goodness, look at Paxis there with that kill.
Wow.
I can only imagine that was like a swivel or something against
It
a rowboat.
had to be a swivel against the rowboat, but good for him. That's gonna put him up there. Yeah, this is here it is. This is the end. It's coming in just a few seconds with about 10 minutes remaining. A wipeout victory for the Leviathans, an absolute wipeout. And we're just waiting. We're waiting for the final confirmation here. But those two gunboats, I mean, you should expect from Safe that he's going to know how to use his gunboats, and he wants
Oh,
big
for
points.
sure.
He wants big points, and the way to do that is you basically use those two gunboats as half of an extra 8 gun because they have the same 8 gun cannon. So you just put them somewhere where they're not going to be paid attention to. And whoa, there's their broadside.
That,
He did say he was going to do a broadside. He did
oh,
say he told me ahead of time that if they were winning big, he was going to do a final broadside, and that is what he did. This was basically the battle that Safe wanted to have. They have sunk every single ship on the enemy fleet with the exception of the very last gunboat. The round is over, so we do need the round to finish. Um, and I'm surprised that it has not yet. Uh, but I'll see what I can do about finishing the round.
I'm gonna scroll
I'll be,
through
I'll be
the
right back.
scoreboard.
Oh,
There
there
we
it
go.
is. There we go. There we go. All right. Well, that is it, folks. The 30,000 to 10,000, a easy 20,000 victory. Definitely one for the history books. Definitely a top score performing. Um, Nobody on the Marines team cracked 1,000 points. Everybody on the leaderboard from the Leviathans is cracking 2,000 plus points. That is the story right there. It means that the Leviathans had the opportunity to shoot. They had the opportunity to bring full offense, and they were not challenged. That is, I think, the issue here is that they once the 13 gun from the Marines went down, there was no active resistance to the Leviathans' victory from that moment onwards. It is it is exactly as it appears to be an overwhelming victory for the Leviathans. Another one to add to their roster of incredible victories and their undefeated status on the ocean, of which I personally am very proud as the leader of the Leviathans. But it is a shame because I really wanted to see them truly and well and truly challenged this week, and unfortunately, that is not what we ended up seeing. We ended up seeing a pretty quick collapse from early on. And yeah, Amit, what do you think? Like, what's the takeaway here?
I mean, the takeaway was, it looked like there was some plan that the 70s, or excuse me, the Chewie had for the Marines, and it doesn't look like it came to fruition. Um, you remarked not even too long ago, maybe about like less than 10 minutes ago, that you have to have some sort of follow up plan when things go a certain way or they don't go your way. And it didn't seem like we saw that there. We saw some hesitation, in my opinion, um, to to stick to a plan. Whereas Leviathans were, they seemed like they were doing exactly what they expected to be doing. We did see that split, which was really nice to see. We don't see fleets split a ton and still have some semblance of maintaining their entire cohesion and
Mm-hmm.
reforming. We did see the Leviathans do that today.
Yeah.
Safe, well done to him. And I don't want to say poor job to Chewie? We don't know yet. We'll have to wait and see, because there's always the other side of the story, right?
There
Um,
absolutely is. There absolutely
my
is.
final takeaway though is, we needed to see more, and we just didn't see that today from the Marines. Um,
Yeah.
I'm
So
gonna remain optimistic. It's still early in the season.
it is still early in the season, and when you put a new team together, it's definitely going to take some time to get lift off there. And I think there were some big ideas that were brought to what we were trying to do today. Like, I think when we talked to the admirals, we're going to see from Chewie that he did have, he had a ploy that he wanted to get off. The Leviathans didn't go for it. If we're correct at what his ploy was, the Leviathans didn't go for it. And I think the major issue there is like, this is something I ask of teams sometimes. What do you do when you lose that 13 gun? Because there are two kinds of teams. There's the teams that when they lose the 13 gun, they turn around, they think of a defensive strategy, they go to a position where they can utilize their 8 guns, or they just focus fire on the 13 gun and take it down and try and even the score out. What is your plan for a catastrophe? Because if you don't have one in the moment or you haven't prepared one, it's very hard to think of one on the fly. And so that I think is what it looked to me like what we saw. It was just once the 13 gun went down for the Marines, it was very hard for them to figure out what to do next. And in the end, they just ran, and that running did not serve them. So anyway, that unfortunately that's my thought and takeaway here. But let's get to the admirals and talk a little bit about what we have going higher on the head. So let's start with our victorious admiral. We have safe admiral for the Leviathans. We also, it seems, we have Atticus with him, who was the man on the ground on the 13 gun. First of all, gentlemen, great job and congratulations. Um, safe. What was your thought process going into this battle? And what do you think what do you attribute to victory here?
What I attribute first and foremost to victory is our crew and our captains. I'm just the guy calling the shots and giving intel, but at the end of the day, it's the whole team that brings it home.
Yeah.
Um, it was great being able to go into the islands and start to. I was a little amissed when I was looking at their fleet, and I'm like, something's missing here. And I look and I see these two parked 8 guns
Mm-hmm.
at the other end of the pill line. I'm thinking like, what's going on here? I don't like this. Um, and as soon as the 13 and the 2-8 started to turn into the corridor of death is what I refer to it a lot in
Right.
my strategy. Um, I knew that they were going to try and bait us to come in, dare us to follow them in, and what would happen is those two parked 8 guns would have come out, and it would have just been a massacre that we saw a little bit like last week. Um, so
Right.
simply flip the line around and get it
And
in,
don't
and
don't go in.
do not go in there.
Yeah, and that's what it looked like to us as well. Our prediction was that they were going to try and draw you into that channel, spin around, block off the edge of that channel, and then swing those 8 guns around behind you and get that crossfire, really bottle you into there. And so I think that was really well chosen to not follow the bulk of the Marines' ships. And then we saw, I think the other thing to comment on that I thought you guys did really well was you kept that 13 gun set back so that when you engage them, right? Because your fleets all kind of came together at once. When you engage them, you got all of your focus fire on their 13 gun, but they could not, only their 13 gun could hit your 13 gun. And that really helped you preserve your 13 gun, whereas they were unable to do so because you had your 8 guns also hitting their 13 gun. And that I feel was, because right up into there, though both sides had taken only a little bit of damage, it was basically equal, and that seemed to be the big differentiator between which one went down first. Um, I did tell the audience of your little broadside that you just got to get in at the end there. So congratulations for doing that. I know that you were excited to show off a little bit, and I think have earned yourself one of the big point victories of the NSL. You're I think 20,000 solid victory, so that's a huge one for you. Were there any other parts of the battle that really stood out to you as in any particular way?
Um, I will say I was sad to lose eggs on the Hunter, our sole ship that got
Yes.
sunk. I knew that he was going to be in trouble because I had him kind of split off a little bit. He was able to
Yes.
rake the Charlotte, the one ship that was kind of firing back at us as the other ships were starting to try to regroup and run away. And I was hoping to save him, but unfortunately, we did not have the favorable wind for the rest of the fleet to catch back up to where he was positioned. And
I
my
saw
boy
that.
Eggs.
We were commenting on the fact that like your entire fleet was just like struggling against the wind, and you guys were turning in not to fire at the 8 guns to finish the battle, but to fire at like gunboats to stop them from sinking the 8 gun. By the end of the match, your priority was actually on just having an intact fleet, and you figured probably you could deal with the 8 guns a little bit afterwards, and that really went to show obviously how confident you felt by the end of that battle. Um, I know we have Atticus here. Atticus, you were the man on the ground. Is there anything that you wanted to add to the conversation about what you observed?
I just full marks to safe. Absolutely spot on, Admiral, and very interested to see how it worked from a because we went with a different system of Admiralty today, and it really worked. It really helped focus. It really helped. The information, just the information feedback alone for the captains was fantastic.
Yeah,
And
this could
Safe put all this together himself, and I mean, yeah, I don't think it could have gone better.
Yeah.
So
What was the
top.
communication like between the two of you? Because Atticus, obviously, you're on the ground, you're seeing things as they happen from that first person perspective. What kind of information were you exchanging with each other? This maybe is good for other teams and admirals to hear if you found this to be effective.
It was more the odd adjustment here and there. The odd adjustment. I mean, half the time I found that I'd started making the move before Safe even said to do it. So we were on the same wavelength there, which was great. And there was just the odd time of, oh, maybe if we went this way and they went that way. And yeah, but I mean, it was minimal. There was there was no point where we were at odds or anything like that. It was Safe had a great view, and he knew exactly what he wanted the fleet to do, and he communicated it beautifully.
Great. Well, congratulations to you guys on an excellent victory. Let's transfer over to Chewy of Troy, your guys' opponent. Chewy, are you with us? I see you there, but you seem muted, so make sure you're unmuted, and hopefully he can unmute.
Yes. Hello.
Hey, Chewy. How you doing? Sorry for the defeat today, but we saw some very interesting things from your fleet to start off with. That opening gambit. My first question for you is, are we right? Were you trying to lure them into that channel in the beginning?
So we were trying to lure them to where our 2 8-guns parked. We thought all 5 of our ships could go, but then I realized once I was already pinned against the island, and as I started to pass it, I'm like, oh shoot, you're all not going to be able to make it with us. Drop your sails. We got to change up the plan. But all 5 of us were supposed to go around the pill shape, then turn back around, try to keep as much wind as we could in our sails. But I thought we're going to be able to sail around the pill-shaped island before you got in range, because we had even wind. It wasn't negative, it wasn't positive at the angle we were sailing.
Right.
But
So,
it was still not fast enough to you having wind to your backs for us to get around that island, because we couldn't go into open water. Open
right.
water,
That was a
it
bad
would have
wind.
been
That was very
100
bad wind.
negative% wind. We had to try to funnel you in between islands, concentrate a firing line, and it just took too long for us to set up because of the wind.
So
And
those
we
two
weren't
ships
able
that you left behind, were really because you just thought that they would take too much damage going around the pill-shaped island as the last
Yeah.
ships in your line. So it was more a preservational thought. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Very interesting.
They weren't
And
supposed to do that, but once I saw they weren't going to make it and they were going to get battered to hell, I'm like, no,
yes.
I'm not giving you free shots. Like,
Right.
you're already going to
Understood.
get some free shots on my front 3. I thought you wouldn't be able to make it there in time.
Yeah,
No,
and
I got that. Yeah.
yeah, by that
But
end,
with you all sailing directly down against down the center and then turning in over to us, it's like, damn it, this is not what I want them to do. This is not what I want them to do. I expected you to do it, but I didn't want you to do it.
yeah.
And I didn't have many options. At the angle of the wind on that particular map, I don't have a lot of options to except to try to funnel you. And my plan was to not be parked in between the islands myself, but it was supposed to be parked between the wall and the island and with that gap so we would have been farther set back and harder for you to line up. But I wasn't able to position my fleet fast enough to do that. So we set up a little more forward than we were supposed to. The 13 wasn't supposed to be as exposed as it was.
Right, and that did end up being the difference that ended up with that 13 gun sinking first. Now, what was command like for you? And Ahmed, I am going to pass all of these admirals back to you for your questions, and I'm sorry, I just keep asking my questions. I'm just so curious
Oh,
about this
that's
battle.
fine. You're asking many of the ones I would have asked as well,
Um, uh,
so it's fine.
when the 13 gun sunk, tell me about what the commands were like, because to us, it did appear that a lot of the A guns just sort of turned well, first of all, they weren't really ready. Like the Leviathans kind of cut behind in a way that they were signaling ahead of time, but they really did end up getting behind the 8 guns, and then the 8 guns just sort of just seemed to run and just show their backs. And so, what was the thought process there? Were you trying to get them out of there, trying to you knew they were going to
Some
take
of
some
that wasn't
damage?
my orders. That was
Mhm.
some of them acting on their own.
Okay, so we had basically a loss of fleet cohesion at that moment.
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought the 13 was lower than it was, because I knew my 13 was getting good hits on their 13, but it was the only thing able to get shots on them.
That's
So
right.
I thought it was lower than half, but I didn't know at that point it wasn't. So I was like, keep the positions, batter that 13. It's your only chance to batter that down in the next minute. Otherwise, they're going to have too many guns to counteract us and just pick us apart.
Gotcha.
I told the team not to spread out, but they did start spreading themselves a little too thin. I warned it not long after I sunk, but because I started seeing what they were doing. And I don't like going around and taking captain slots from other people that are captaining ships. Unless
Mhm.
they die on the ship, then I'll take it for the next 30 seconds. But other than that, I'm not going to go and try to take captaining. We had a whole bunch of first time competitive captains. One guy, this was his second time captaining ever. They're like, oh, he's a good captain. Oh, he's only captain once ever in any event. And they said he's good off that one time. So it's like, I had, I think I think 3 of my guys never captained in competitive naval before, or had very little experience captaining.
Yeah, and I
So
think
the
that experience
cohesion,
gap,
and I was
you know,
training one of them before the event today on
yeah,
how to properly move a ship and
you know,
what's what.
it's
Uh,
it's a shame for you because that experience gap does show in crisis moments, and I think that is the difference. Any captain can turn cannons towards the enemy when things are good and everything seems stable, but it is when you lose a major ship. It's when the enemy gets a good position over you. It's can you keep your metal? And I think that's something that some fleets have and some fleets still need to develop. But unfortunate that is the way that it played out. And you work with what you've got and do the best that you can.
yeah.
Um, you know, um, is there anything that you saw that so like obviously experience something that you want to improve on, tactically or strategically or personnel? What is your feelings moving forward, and how are you going to change this team to build victories in the future?
Um. So I can't get into all those details.
Mhm.
For a number of reasons, but we're going to try to work on our communication. I was like, even 1 minute left before you set all sails, I was still trying to get people into this Steam group chat, because that
Mhm.
77th doesn't operate that way, but First RM does and 85th does. So I was trying to mash and mix, but not all the First RM and 85th guys had the invites to it. So I was still trying to organize people into that and organize so much, and it was a lot to try to organize, and I wasn't able to get all of it. We had people showing up, uh, didn't show up, who showed up with like 5 minutes left in the match, and I'm like, yeah, you're late. There's no spot for you. And other people that never ever did any holdfast naval joined the fleet with 5 minutes before the match, and I'm like,
Gotcha.
okay, well, I have to use what I got.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
So I thought my boys on the 13 were doing good, but it's just we were focused down by all 5 ships. I didn't reverse as soon as I should have. I should have reversed sooner and not shown myself to your fleet, but I was getting a little greedy. I knew I had to risk it to sink your 13 to even have a
Mhm.
chance, because I knew the gunnery of X is the best in Holdfast probably, and on a mass, like all your guys are very good. Now there might be some people in other regiments that are better than your guys on an individual level, but as a regiment, I think your guys have the highest possibly accuracy rating. So I had to try to funnel you. He
Yeah.
didn't take the bait. I wasn't able to get the exact position I wanted, and I thought with even wind I could have carried enough speed to get around the pill shape. With you having 100% wind, it was either
It's tough.
that or
It was
sit and
always gonna be
spawn.
tough. It was always gonna be
It-
tough. And, honestly, yeah, those were basically the options for you. It was go bring it to something that was developing into a line battle, which is kind of what you did, though you left the 2 ships behind, because I get why you did that. Like, that could have become a line battle. You probably would have lost the beginning of that line battle because of that pill-shaped island you're going down, right? We've seen that happen before to other groups.
yeah,
Or, yeah,
happened to me
it
and the
was
Seawolves last year in
right.
the SCP-38 match.
Or the other option is find a defensive position and just set up and make them come to you. And other teams have tried that in previous rounds. Its utility depends entirely on the opponent. So you make the call you make, and you do the best you can with what you've got. And
I
you know
tried to at least fight without dropping all sails and making you come to me until I get you close. Like, I don't
gotcha.
like just sitting early and sitting for 10 minutes, 15 minutes.
Yeah.
I don't that anyone can do that. I don't like that style of leading the fleet, because it's too defensive. Then of
Yeah,
course you're
for
going to have
sure.
the advantage, and I don't fight with that. Even though that would have been the best plan today, and I knew that, I wasn't going to use that.
Not your
It's
style.
not. It's
Not your style.
not. I got to fight with honor, and
Okay.
just parking it and dropping anchor 2 meters from spawn is not how I do it. It's not how I roll personally.
All right.
But
I want to.
first of all, I wanted to say one thing.
Yeah.
Safe, if I'm not mistaken, today was your first time ever admiraling in a competitive match, correct?
Yep.
Congratulations on your victory. That was a very impressive win. You did everything I said. I hope he doesn't do this, and then he did it. I'm like, God darn it! Like, he's doing everything you needed to do. So congratulations. I saw what you were doing with our gunboats at the end and trying to farm all the points you could to get that point differential up so you can get the #1 spot going into the playoffs. Just all around great job today, Safe. The entire X regiment of Leviathans with all your mercs today as well. Just great job. Uh, I, I'm still a little sad, but great job for you. I'm happy for you, sad for me. But yeah,
We love a
Thank
little
you.
gentlemanly collegiality around here in the NSL. So thanks for saying so. And I want to pass it over to Amit. Amit, I have a bad habit of asking a lot of questions and bowling over people. So I want to make sure that you've had your opportunity to ask any of these admirals any questions that you might have had about the play today.
I'm good with safe. Safe, clearly, everything went well for you today. The question I had about you was answered actually before the battle even started. I have one burning question for Chewie. I know things as you described it, which you've described very well, the whole thought process and how things have gone. The one thing that's left for me, I think, is to understand kind of towards the end when the X had split their, or excuse me, the Leviathans had split their fleet, to have the flagship in 1/8 gun on the north side of that pill-shaped island, and then they had sent 3/8 guns, kind of towards you guys. You had 2/8 guns try to turn around an island to go back towards the south to meet up with the 2 anchored, I guess we'll call them anchored 8 guns on your team. Was there a plan at any point to decide maybe go to the west, go a little bit further up the map, and then come around and try to reform your formation? Because also I noticed that one of those 2 8 guns that was trying to turn around the island, I kept noticing that the captain was getting shot off of the helm, and a
was that
carpenter had
dark
to
ball?
take over at one point. I unfortunately did not see the captain before he got killed, so I couldn't tell you. But Were you trying to
So
wait until you've all formed up and then maybe go from there, or was there some other strategy you were planning at the time?
So I wanted all my ships facing the same way. Once we go around the pill-shaped island, all of us stick together. But I couldn't do that because the last two were just going to get utterly obliterated. So that's why I had them drop. I started telling them to rotate, but I never actually had them do a 180 rotate, so we all could face the same way and move in the same direction. But at that
Okay,
point,
so
I
it's
was
just
trying to tell them to just stay together because rotating takes so long to do a 180. Even in an 8 gun, it takes
It
a
does take a
little long,
while.
and I didn't want them to show their ass.
yeah.
At the moment, I was just frustrated because I thought I would carry more speed than I did versus you. I knew you were going to be faster. That's obvious. But I thought I was going to at least with the even wind get around that pill shape. That's only a third of the way across the map while you sailed the entire way across the map. Like I was like, God darn, really?
It was
And
certainly, yeah, it was kind of like deceiving how quickly they moved, wasn't it?
and the 1/8 gun kept in front of me, kept dropping its sail. I'm like, no, don't keep going, please.
Okay, so that kind of explains some of what happened there. Like the formation, I really think was more what I was curious about because when they finally came up and regrouped their fleet from this, uh, the bottom end of your formation, yeah, they just fired into your rear. So I guess it was more about a lot of the factors that you had already explained.
Yeah,
Okay,
there was
appreciate
a
that.
lot of new people today that have never played naval or barely played naval on my team. I would say about half of them today, almost half.
Well, we are
Uh,
so happy for new players here in the league, and we welcome
I
them
am
with
too.
open arms. And listen, these defeats, these moments, they are learning experience. This league is not going anywhere. As long as people want to keep competing in it, we will keep hosting it. And so, this may be their introduction to the league, but this is not where you guys are going to end up in the long term. And I really do hope that you know that there are lessons learned. And I mean, nothing teaches a captain better than getting someone crossing their teeth from behind. And you would start to learn, like, oh, I can't panic in these situations. I just can't. I have to turn my ship around. I
Yeah.
have to get my cannons in. And for some of these guys who broke that cohesion for you today, I know that's out of your control, and God, I can only imagine how frustrating that must have been for you as an admiral. But hopefully this instills in them an understanding that, like, if you lose discipline, if you stop listening and you just think of your own ship, then you just get defeated in detail. And it's a great lesson for everyone.
Yeah, and we weren't also able to coordinate and focus ships as I was saying focus 13, and
Yeah.
like half the ships were shooting at other stuff, and I was like, it was just bad positioning was reason for the two that sailed back with me. They weren't able to reach the 13 they thought, and if they were, it was going to be max range shots, which is actually not bad if it's exactly max range because then
No,
it's
not at
easy. You don't
all.
have to aim.
That's right.
But it is just I wasn't able to. I was trying to do too much and using a chat I never use for anything else other than this team was a little confusing. I was trying to change my button, but I couldn't figure that out. And yeah, but otherwise, great seeing X have another victory. Other than your Royal Black Fleet default loss last year, you haven't lost in 3 years. So I told the guys going in, X has won the past 3 championships. They are not to be trifled. We have to play defensive today. So I tried to do the best I could, and just it came up short.
Well, speaking personally, I honestly do consider you to be one of the best admirals in the competitive scene. I know
Thank you.
that this was a really tough loss today, and I get why. There's a lot of factors that go in when you have a hybrid team that's comprised of all different regiments, of all different skill levels, and all different captains that don't always get to train together. Like, that lack of cohesion can really get in the way of a good plan. But some of the things that you were thinking today, some of the moves that I do really consider you to be one of the best. And I hope that over the course of this season and in future seasons that you refine your team to be able to be responsive to what you need out of them. And I think if you get that team, and I think if you are able to, forge that alongside your comrades, it's still early in the season, man.
Yep.
Keep fighting out
I'm
there.
still proud of my guys for doing the best they did today. But even though it came up short, I'm still proud of them. We'll just have to work on a few things, and hopefully we can try to get into that third slot for the playoffs. That's my
That's
goal
it.
is to make the third slot.
And that's all you need to do. You don't need to be first. You don't even need to be second, but you at least get to that third. And I think that mid ground of the league right now is very hotly contested. And,
Yeah.
so
My goal was if we could win today and with SCP, I don't know. I kind of feel like SCP might be that one that beats us out for third spot. But Royal Black Fleet Cannon Jackals have improved this year too as well.
definitely
So that third slot's really open.
it is.
So I can't wait to see who that third slot is. I hope it's me. I hope it's the Royal Marine team.
Yeah.
That's just me being a little
Let's hope it's
selfish.
higher.
Yeah, hey,
But
shoot for the
yeah.
moon. But anyway,
Yeah.
all right, folks, it has been wonderful talking to you all again. Congratulations to Safe, and congratulations to Chewy for a battle well fought today. Another great iteration of the Naval Sports League. Thank you to Amit for joining me today, and of course, thank you to our setup guys. We've got guys like Gunnar out there who's doing God's work trying to make sure that all these mercenaries get assigned to where they're supposed to be, and then he has to go into battle. We've got guys like Atticus, we've got guys like Prof, who are setting things up behind the scenes and getting this whole production to look as beautiful as they have developed it into. Guys like Eggs, who prepare all the graphics. You'll see them all in the credits and everything, and but I do want to just individually thank these guys because they put so much work in every single week. Now, and I also want to thank Muffin, and I know we had another correspondent, and I'm
Swaggington.
totally Swaggington. Thank you, Swaggington, both of you guys for joining us today. We are going to close out here next week. I want to keep everyone open to possible announcements for future weeks. We do have some holidays coming up. We have Mother's Day, we have Father's Day, we have other things coming up. We do have a set schedule. I am going to revisit and consider it, considering the holidays coming up. So just keep your eyes open. We'll make some announcements for when these next few battles are going to take place. But the next battle that we have scheduled right now, if I look in my host information here, is the RBF versus the Jackals, which should be a fascinating battle between
that'll
two
be fun.
teams. Yeah, between two teams who really have something to prove. The Jackals need to prove that they can continue to do what they did last time, and the RBF need to score a victory in the league to put one on the board for themselves. And I think against the Jackals, they may feel like they have a chance, but who knows what the Jackals have become after their last battle. So it's going to be an awesome one. Week 10 coming up for you guys. Thanks so much for everybody for tuning in, and we hope that you enjoyed today's battle, and we'll see you for the next one. Everybody have a great weekend.